When I was growing up, Weird Al Yankovic wrote a song about going to visit a twine ball and the whole family loading up in the car and going on this great epic journey. And along the way, there's a guy named Bernie. I accidentally rhymed that, but I'm happy that it worked. And he's holding a sign that says twine ball or bust. And I remember asking my dad, what does this sign mean? I don't get it. And my dad explained to me that meant that somebody was cashing in all their chips. They had only one play left. And the reason it's a funny joke is because normally it would be like, I got to get to California to get in on the gold rush, new economic opportunities, or I got to get to this place to see this famous, important historical event that I know is about to happen. And so the joke is, and now I'm in on it too, I'm explaining to you like my dad did, that Bernie was all in on going to see a great big ball of twine in Minnesota. And that's ridiculous. But sometimes you really are in a situation where it is all in or bust. If this doesn't work, I got nothing left. I am ruined. And how you come to be in that kind of a situation is the sort of thing that I suppose armchair pundits could sit around and judge and comment on, and they could point to where you made missteps here or there in your life's journey to find yourself with your back against the wall in a situation where it is twine ball or bust. But the reality is you can't turn back time. So however you got there is however you got there. And, well, however Queen Esther got here, she's here, and it is twine ball or bust for her as we head into the frosty winter of 479 BC. We can say with near historical certainty that within the last 14 months, Xerxes had gone through a horrific, humiliating defeat at the hands of the Greeks. We can say with pretty much certainty that he would have tried to have spun that as somehow a victory, and I don't really want that whole army or the noblemen who were leading that army. I didn't even need them or want them anyway. Why would I even care? I'm the great king of kings. I have a whole empire to attend to. I don't even care about Greece. And we can say with some degree of historical suspicion or strong suspicion that Xerxes drowned his sorrows after that defeat in a gigantic, twisted, ugly, bizarre dalliance with another branch of his family tree, flirting with a married lady and then her daughter, and then the whole sordid, ugly affair in the months after the disaster in Greece. At least according to the ancient historian Herodotus, all of that resulted in him having massive embarrassment and ultimately the seeds of disaster that were sown in his court by that horribly inappropriate behavior on the part of the king toward this other part of his family and the women specifically therein. Those seeds would grow up into something that would eventually result in Xerxes' demise and his assassination. But right now, those seeds are just little sproutlings, and Xerxes is trying to recover dignity. He's had some time to think about Queen Vashti and how much he misses her, and he has spent the last several months every single night entertaining a new woman in his bedchamber. I don't know what goes on in there. I can't even imagine what a king would expect from a night of hanging out with a lady he'll probably never, ever see again and whose name he won't remember. But what I can say for sure is this. None of them have made a big enough impression on Xerxes at this point to have been declared queen. And I suppose that raises a question about how this contest works. I mean, he's the king of kings, right? He doesn't have to honor this stupid contest. If the first lady they trotted in, Connie, Debbie, or Edith, if she just delighted the king, he's like, this is my soulmate. I have been waiting for Edith my whole life. Cancel the rest of this stupid contest. This is who I want to marry. I'm head over heels for this lady. I think the king could have done that. So it's pretty easy to deduce that while he has not been disgusted by this process and has not canceled the contest out of some sort of moral revulsion or boredom with all of these lovely, shapely young ladies, he also hasn't found his soulmate. Maybe at this point he's like, I don't know if this is going to work out or whatever, but he's still on board. And this ridiculous, dangerous procession with massive consequences, particularly for these young women who were involved, it's continuing to go on. Well, Now it's Esther's turn, and I don't know that this turn was ever even, because of what we were just talking about, truly guaranteed to her. That she would ever even get to this moment was not a certainty. This game could have ended early, but here we are now, 14 months removed from the disaster in Greece, a matter of only a few months removed from the horrible fallout relationally from Xerxes' mistakes within his own family that happened thereafter. Now, Esther, who has navigated her way through the ranks, maybe the leaders of this event have been holding her back, knowing that it would make sense to run through some of the lesser candidates here in the early going. It looks like they probably would have had their fingers crossed as well as her night, her turn comes along. Is this morally problematic? Oh, yeah. Is there some kind of beautiful example here for all the young ladies out there about how to conduct themselves with dudes? No, I don't think there really is. I don't think there's anything morally exemplary happening in this situation at all. It's just how it is, and this is how it goes. Esther 2, verse 15. When the turn came for Esther, the girl Mordecai had adopted, the daughter of his uncle Abihail, to go to the king, she asked for nothing other than what Hegai, the king's eunuch who was in charge of the harem, suggested. So rather than having her own big ideas about what she ought to do to make this situation work, she trusts that she is reading the relational room right. She trusts that the affection and treatment, the positive treatment that she's receiving from the people running this thing, she has the insight to say, yeah, I think that is real. I don't think they're setting me up to fail. And as a result, rather than me going in here and being like, I know how to please a king I've never met because of the infinite wisdom of my youth, instead of doing that, which would have been a prideful and foolish move given her circumstances, she again demonstrates shrewdness as she defers. She's like, you guys know better than I do. What do I take with me? Well, what did she take with her? Does it seem like the person who wrote the book of Esther is going to tell you anything like this? Look at all the euphemisms that are happening here. No, you don't get to know what she took in there, and neither do I, because that is aside from the point. And I really do believe, as we're going to talk about more tomorrow, that Esther chapter 2 is meant to be a slalom. It's a moral obstacle course that we're just battling our way through in the most value neutral of terms possible to get to the point where, through this very sordid, very difficult, very morally complex, very historically removed from our reality situation, Esther's going to win out. I think the author of this book is encouraging you to withhold your moral judgment as you read this and just try to understand what is. So, Esther, demonstrating shrewdness, once again, demonstrating humility, defers to people who know better than her, and whatever she took with her and whatever that thing was supposed to do, it apparently passed muster with everybody in the court, everybody who's setting her up. She's the sweetheart of this contest. It says, and Esther won the favor of everyone who saw her. They're all excited. It feels like movie magic if it weren't for what the situation actually is. And in she goes. She was taken to King Xerxes. Notice the passive voice again. That is intentional. She didn't get to just walk in there. Going in there happened to her. She was taken to King Xerxes in the royal residence in the 10th month, the month of Tebeth, in the 7th year of his reign. So again, December 479 is where we are. And now, if you've never read this before, you get to this point where you're like, dang, I got my kids here. Is this going to get weird? Because it's a bedroom. I think I see what this is. And the answer is nope. They take the high road. Verse 17. Now the king was attracted to Esther more than to any of the other women, and she won his favor and approval more than any of the other virgins. So he set a royal crown on her head and made her queen instead of Vashti. Now, we got to take what we get here. Maybe some of us were hoping that she would go in there and the king would fall madly in love with her and declare her his equal in mind and talent, and he would have some sort of very modern sensibility, progressive awakening about gender roles and how things ought to be morally, and that he would repent of all of the other women and all. No, no. It's Xerxes. He's the king of kings. That isn't happening at this point. We don't get any language about then they were deeply in love or anything like that. But maybe this is what a king like this could muster. Maybe this is what he had to give at this point in his life, being raised the way he was and having taken all of the soul damage that he had taken, sending tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people to their death on the battlefield and through judgment, having all of this weight on his shoulders and having indulged deeply in a licentiousness that none of us in this conversation could even fathom. Maybe favored her and won the approval and was more attracted to her. Maybe that's the best we can hope for at this point. But what we know is this: Esther's fate, should she not have impressed the king, was ruinous. She was shot. She was used up. She was headed toward historical obscurity and complete and total forgottenness, as we talked about yesterday. Part and parcel with being rejected as a loser of this contest is the forgetting of your name. It isn't just Xerxes who would never think of it again and call you in. You'd be locked away forever as a concubine in this harem and be forgotten by pretty much everybody else, dead to the world. But that is not her fate. I have daughters, and my heart breaks for all the other little girls in this difficult situation, and I cannot imagine what it would be like to be the father of a daughter who endured this fate, even in an era with totally different sensibilities. It's gut-wrenching. Only one, though, could emerge from this, and it's the girl who we're rooting for, because there's something bigger at stake here, and that crown on her head is the only reason that she is going to remain in the game, is the only reason that she is going to have that most valuable of all the commodities, of all the resources in the Achaemenid Empire in ancient Persia, that being access to and potentially influence over the great King of Kings. Make of this whatever you will, but if the situation is twine ball or bust, and those are the only options you got, well, you better hope you get the twine ball. And this is a weird metaphor, but Esther got the twine ball. Esther is now positioned to do something great when the time is right. Now, it is possible, if you listen to these last few episodes about getting to know Queen Esther and seeing her pluck and her social awareness and this contest and the night that this all comes to fruition, and that you're like, I bet that's easy and just pretty fun to talk about. I wish I had a podcast where I did that and a whole bunch of people listened and you had to try to figure out how to say that and still just sound like yourself and like a normal human and like you're just having a practical conversation. And if you do think that, you are wrong. My goodness, this is not the easiest topic to navigate through. Thank you all for your grace and willingness to go there with me as we try to pick up what the author is putting down and read this book in the way the author intended it to be read when he wrote it down in the first place. A little more on this next time around. I'm Matt. This is the 10-Minute Bible Hour podcast. Let's do this again soon.